this month's expert guest workshop, you know something myself and as a company audience lab, it's not always myself, but it seems like I'm in connection with most of our expert guests, whether through my network or my conversations or other products and business deals, etc. But regardless, as I talk about often, we like to bring in outside experts that specialize in something, have skill set or expertise that maybe we don't spend a lot of time on. Maybe we don't have that guy on our team per se for certain topics. I know last month we did, Russell Brunson's email copywriter. About email marketing and email copywriting. Sure, we have some tips on that and how to implement in the data. We don't go far into the copy side of things. We don't go far into other people's strategies that are using this at a higher level of scale. I can guarantee you, Russell and his team send more emails than me and my team. You know what I mean? So we can pick up tips, tricks, stuff like that. And this month we have Buzz. You guys may or may not, I'm guessing everybody that's on this live right now probably saw one of my posts talking about this, or simply saw it scheduled, in our workshop session, whether you're in our circle or our private client school community. We have both of those going now. There's a post about that. If you're not in the other one, just go look and you will see the information, specifically school to circle for our newer users. But as I mentioned in the post, and then Buzz is going to give a nice little intro after we kind of, talk a little about what he's here to do and how we know one another. But Buzz specializes in helping founders remove themselves from their business, helps them scale up to the point when they can get to that, helps them focus on that earlier, which is one thing I really want to bring up and something we didn't hit on a lot, Buzz, that I'll get to, during your time here. But what I found is a lot of people, when they're thinking about trying to remove themselves from their business to an extent, whether you want to be in it or not, a little bit, that's totally different than, getting yourself another full-time job, right? Where it's always dependent on you. But what I find with a lot of people, and I was even doing this until recently, was I was really never looking at what I needed to do to take myself out of my business. Maybe I never thought it was possible to take myself out of my business, but I wasn't setting the strategy to do it, the foundations. And then you will get to a point where you're like, man, I have all these team members, I have all these things. Why is it still relying on me? And it's because probably I never thought about that early on, right? So that's something we're going to touch on a little. But Buzz's expertise is all around systems in the agency, that it doesn't have to be totally founder reliant. And even if it is, a lot of that can be automated and can be, outsourced and all kinds of things that people can be doing. But a lot of that comes into systems, and a lot of it comes into the strategy that he's going to talk about, which you wrote the book, Founder Free Business. So Buzz, give a little bit of an intro of yourself, maybe a little about how we met, and then, feel free to start to dive into it, and I'll just monitor the chat.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Raymond. I am a fellow Audience Lab reseller as well. So that's that. Originally, we got connected when I was probably my first book, The Rule of 26, which you can get on Kindle, or go to ruleof26.com and get a free copy of it, signed copy there. But so you and I have known each other for a couple of years, just kind of circling the same circles. In the we're not an agency, but I had a creative agency, a multi-million-dollar creative agency. I've been in business for 21 years. And about 2018 is when I burnt out with my multi-million-dollar creative agency in Anchorage, Alaska. And I was doing everything wrong. And so all the things that I'm talking about today is what I have learned not to do and replace myself as the main gear in my marketing strategy firm, which is what we run now at Buzzworthy Strategies. And so we're starting to get more and more demand from agency owners on, okay, we know how to grow other people's businesses, but we are, for some reason, the cobbler with no shoes. And it's not that we're bad marketers. It's that we are built a business around ourselves. And so that's why we're here. We're going to talk about creating a founder-free revenue engine. So I'm going to share my screen if you want me to get started.
Yeah, might as well. Might as
All
well.
right,
As we
let's do
go,
it.
I may stop and ask some questions that I think the members
Okay,
or the audience might be watching. Guys,
sure.
also at the end, we're going to have a Q&A session for Buzz. So if you have questions as you go along, you can either type them in the chat and we'll get back to them, or jot them down and hold them to the end, and I will call on you to speak. But throughout Buzz, I might interact a little and just throw in my 2 cents here and there, what people might be thinking. But yeah, dive right into it, my man.
Sounds great. Actually, I do have a spot. I only got about a 20-minute talk. I don't like to bore people with a really long. I'd rather have more conversation than other. But about halfway through, I am going to stop for questions. So there is a framework that I want to share, and I want to make sure that everybody understands the framework before we start to talking about how to apply the framework. So just so you know, my tempo is there for that. Everybody see my screen, agency systems, profitability, and predictability and scalability.
Yep, we got it.
All right, here we go. So what if I told you that you're running your own entrepreneurial, you are ruining your own entrepreneurial experience. And if your company can't run without you being the main gear, I'd be right. And if I'm right, you don't own a company, you own a job. And if you own a job, then your business is also stuck with less profitability than it deserves and is getting held back from its true growth potential. And I know this because I've been there. Like I said, I owned a job for 13 years building a multi-million-dollar creative agency. And my boss was not kind to me. He did not pay me well. He did not let me take vacations, and he overworked me. Okay. But I've also worked with other hundreds of other founders who built something that they thought was valuable, but they were stuck as well. Growth required them. Key deals required them. The pipeline was them, the whole 9 yards. And so today I'm going to show you what founder free means, why it matters beyond just getting your time back, and what you can do today to start the shift. Now, this isn't about firing yourself or checking out. It's about building a company that can thrive beyond your bandwidth. It's about finding a pathway to entrepreneurial freedom. But before I get started, you're going to need something to write on. So if you don't already, take a second and grab something. I'll be sharing the slide deck afterwards, so no need to take notes between the mini exercises I'll walk you through for the next 20 minutes or so. All right, so with that, is everyone ready? Can I get a little bit of energy in the comments so I know that there's some people here actually listening to me besides Raymond? There we go. Awesome. Ready to go. Okay, here we go. There we go. I got at least, thank you. JR, is that right? There we go, Gina. Okay, I just want to make sure everybody's awake. Here we go. All right. The more useful you are to your company, the more useless your company. Let me say that again because it matters. The more useful you, the founder, are to the agency, the more useless your agency. It has no value to a buyer, no allure to a leadership hire. There isn't even value to your team because they know the moment you're gone, things will fall apart. Here's the trap. You started your business because you were good at the work. You were the person who could deliver outcomes and get things done. So when clients showed up, you delivered. When more clients showed up, you hired people to help you deliver. But nobody built the system. So you became the system. Key deals close because of you. Big proposals happen because of you. Rescues happen because of you. And now growth feels lethargic and sometimes a little scary because if you grow, you just multiply the number of things you can do, or you have to do, I should say. So whether you want to admit it or not, your current pipeline relies on you in some way, if not entirely. So let me know in the comments if you are all or some, or think you are completely free of your marketing and sales process. I'll give you a second to chime in there. So that's all, some, or you're completely free. Still some, Raymond? Gabby? Yeah, no, it all depends on me, right? Right? Some, all? I'm not seeing any founder-free agencies yet. So I think we're all in the, if only I could delegate. I love that. I love that. All right, cool. It's okay. All of these answers are okay because creating a founder-free pipeline is one of the most difficult things a founder can do. Why? Well, first off, because this is your baby. And the thought of not being needed hurts your ego a little bit. Secondly, because most of the decision matrix for deal flow are locked inside of your head. And last but not least, you haven't created an offer that can become entirely systemized. And without a system, you will always be called on to either ignite action or save the day, which creates what I call the founder's paradox, which says the more useful you are to your company, your company's day-to-day operations, the more useless the company. So when the founder is indispensable, the company is disposable. When the company runs without the founder being the main gear, it has value. I'm talking like tangible value, right? The goal isn't to make yourself useless because you're lazy or checked out. The goal is to make yourself useless so that you can profitably grow your business and find entrepreneurial freedom. But that can't happen if your revenue engine requires you and your constant intervention. And that's the shift. And it starts with understanding why this matters beyond just getting your time back. See, there are 3 phases to entrepreneurship. Phase 1 is financial independence, where you prove the model works. You replace your income from the 9 to 5 and you hire a few people to help grow it. You're profitable and you can seemingly print money at will. For all intents and purposes, you've made it. Phase 2 is entrepreneurial freedom. This is where the company runs without you being the bottleneck. You can take a 4-week vacation and nothing breaks. You can focus on strategy instead of execution. You can grow. The growth of your company doesn't require your heroics. So now you've really made it, right? And then there's phase 3, which is impact and legacy. This is where you leverage the business for something bigger, like community investment, industry leadership, or building general wealth, or generational wealth, I should say, that changes your entire family's trajectory. Here's the problem. Most founders get stuck in phase 1 trying to jump to phase 3. You want impact, but you haven't built freedom. And to make real impact, you can't skip phase 2. And that's because phase 1 is where most founders start celebrating too early. And I get it. You did it. You're profitable. You're replacing your income. The business seems to be working. But working and scalable are not the same thing. Working and profitable are definitely not the same thing either. What I have found out really early in my entrepreneurial journey is that financial independence is the floor, not the ceiling. Because what use does having money if you don't have time or the bandwidth to enjoy it or do something impactful? That's why entrepreneurial freedom is so important. This is where the system takes over. The founder stops being the glue. It doesn't always mean that you work less, but it does allow you to work on the different things, like strategic things, the things only the founder should be doing, or maybe things that are above or outside the company. So phase 2 is really about choice. And I think choice is why most of us went into business for ourselves in the first place. And what we do with that choice will feed directly into what most of you actually want: to give back. You want to lead in your industry. You want to build wealth that changes your family story. Maybe you have plans to change the world, but you can't do any of that if you're still the main gear in your business. So phase 3 requires phase 2. Freedom enables impact. So now that we know what the goal is, we have to reverse engineer to where the founder-led trap shows up. And in my experience, there's a very familiar pattern I see constantly. Say a client signs on, right? Awesome. Onboarding starts. Also great. But 2 weeks into the client experience, they send you an email saying, "Hey, I'm not seeing what we talked about in the kickoff. Can we jump on a call?" So you jump on a call. You smooth it over. You fix it. Crisis averted. Or say a deal is close to closing, but the prospect has one more question. So your sales rep isn't sure how to answer it. So you jump in and, of course, close the loop and the deal. Or maybe a new lead comes in and you have somebody to follow up with that already, but you see it's a big name company. So you respond yourself just to be safe. This is the rescue pattern, and it's killing your ability to scale because every time you rescue, you reinforce the idea that the system doesn't work without you. The company learns that you're the solution, not the process, not the team. You. You are the solution. So, how do we break this pattern? How do you move from phase one to phase two? Well, the immediate answer doesn't include any fancy tactics or hire better people or get a better CRM. The answer is system thinking. There are 3 process principles that make a founder less necessary. And when you install all 3 of these things, the revenue engine starts to run without you. There are rules, handoffs, and numbers. And I'm going to walk you through all of them. So the operating rules are simple and repeatable standards that prevent processes from stalling. The best operating rules are not complicated. They're clear and concise, like all new leads get a response within 10 minutes during business hours, or a new client gets a kickoff meeting within 3 days of signing their agreement, or maybe every qualified conversation requires 5 qualifying questions before you send a proposal. Regardless, these are all they're less policies and more operating rules. When your team follows them, deals stop drifting, leads stop going cold, and you stop being the rescue mechanism that keeps it all together, okay? The goal here is to make the right action the obvious action so nobody has to guess what to do next. And when someone is done with their responsibility, there's usually someone else that needs to take the next step. See, most revenue engines don't break inside marketing or inside sales or even in the client success process. They break at the handoffs between those functions. For example, say a deal closes and sales says they handed it off to delivery, but then delivery says they didn't know it was starting this week. This obviously makes onboarding clunky, which makes the client nervous of whether they hired the right team. Solid handoff rules fix this by engineering the bridges beforehand. Other examples could be what happens the moment a lead raises their hand, or what happens after the first client win. When the handoffs are clean, momentum transfers, and when they're not, you become the bridge. You're manually passing the baton more times than you should. Now, as you make yourself useless, you will find yourself increasingly nervous. Nervous that you are missing something that is going wrong because you're not in the mix. And that's where your numbers come into play. Scorecards let you see what is going on inside your company without you stepping into the day-to-day of it all. And you don't need 47 dashboards to get a clear picture of what's going on. You actually only need about 4 numbers that tell you whether momentum is gaining or breaking within your revenue engine. Scoreboards also let your team know how they're performing so they can just adjust on their own. This takes the guesswork out of their performance because when they're guessing, they come to you for answers. So scoreboard numbers create accountability without micromanaging, and the team sees the score. They know if they're winning, and you stop being the one who has to tell them. Okay, quick question. I want you to type in the chat, which of these 3 principles is the weakest in your business right now? Operating rules, handoffs, or numbers? Just type one word. Rules, handoffs, numbers. Gina's rules, David's got numbers, Gabby's numbers. Believe it or not, as marketing, and we always talk about numbers, numbers is usually the weakest for most, so don't feel bad. Anybody else? Numbers. I am the shoemaker, the cobbler. I love it. I love it. All right. All right. So now we want to identify what the weakest principle, now that we have identified where the weakest principle is showing up in your revenue engine, let's look at the engine itself to decide where your biggest bottleneck is lurking. Because the biggest mistake you can make when installing what I call a founder-free revenue engine is trying to fix everything at once. To be successful, we need to eat this elephant one bite at a time. Otherwise, we will end up creating more chaos, more burnout, and less profitability for ourselves, which is the exact opposite of what we're looking to do here. So let me show you what I have created that will help guide you through the process of creating a founder-free revenue engine. Just want to make sure I'm getting all right. Good. Keeping an eye on the chat here. So I appreciate you guys being active over there. Awesome. Okay. So what you're looking right here is called the Honeycomb Flywheel, and it plots the full client lifecycle across 6 stages, starting with attract, where we create right fit demand. Then we turn hand raisers into conversations in the activate stage. Those conversations get qualified and closed in the approval stage, and those new clients get anchored through the onboarding process and experiencing their first wins. In the advanced stage, we look to expand our relationships with the account by continuing to deliver wins, which feeds into advocate stage, where we turn those wins into social proof and referrals, which feed right back into attract. So when all 6 stages work together and the handoffs between them are clean, the flywheel spins smoothly. Your systems gain traction and you stop being the main gear. But when one stage breaks or a handoff is clumsy, you'll get stuck right back in the mix. And that's where you are probably right now. You're the gap filler. Now, I'm not going to teach the whole system today, but I want you to see the map, because once you see the life cycle as a system, you stop thinking in terms of we need more leads or we need a better sales process. And you start thinking in terms of where is the biggest bottleneck today. Now, systems thinking doesn't really work without people to run them, right? So we need to identify who, besides you, needs to be responsible for the bottleneck. We can do this by installing the flywheel inside your revenue engine, which includes marketing, sales, and client success. I want you to notice that each arc of your engine is responsible for 2 stages of the client lifecycle. I also want you to point out the arrows aligned between the arcs. Those are handoff points between the arcs, which I talked about earlier. That means that we have handoffs both inside each arc, marketing, sales, and client success, and each of the 6 stages. So we have 9 bridges that most of us are all holding together. And that's why we have all the problems we were talking about earlier. So with this map of your revenue engine, we can start to see why it's harder than it sounds to extract yourself from the revenue engine. But at the same time, we know that we don't have to fix everything at the same time. The trick is to identify where the biggest friction is hiding and fix it first. And once the first bottleneck is alleviated, we go back and measure for the next issue that is holding you back from entrepreneurial freedom. Now, with all that said, let's distill this all down to your first founder-free move. But before I get into that, I want to make sure everyone is up to speed here. So does anyone have any questions about the stages or the arcs or how they interconnect in the revenue engine?
Yeah, either you could type them in the chat or just type the number 1 in the chat, and I will just call on you and you could unmute and ask the question, whichever is easier. And as we're waiting for that, just to kind of recap some of the stuff you did cover from, my point of view, in terms of, the 3 phases, right? The financial independence, the entrepreneurial freedom, the impact and legacy, you know, I thought it was interesting when you said the entrepreneurial freedom or still being stuck in that phase or trying to get out of that phase is 100% a choice. I couldn't agree with you more. I totally have and planned to get out of that phase for certain times, but I made choices to go back into it because I don't want to be done working. Number 1.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2, I'm still very good or bring a lot of value in a lot of roles. But I also had the luxury. I would agree that probably most of our clients and most of the people on this call, whether it be the dozen or so that are here live or people watching on the replay, probably a lot either took a while or still stuck in that first stage, the financial independence.
Mm-hmm.
Um, in my journey, I was certainly the outlier and blessed to have pretty good success really quickly. Anybody that's known me for a while, and I know there's some newer clients that probably don't know much about my backstory, but I was in corporate America for 20 years in the route sales industry. Within my first 3 to 6 months online, I had already replaced that income that I had been used to for 20 years. Not everybody has that success that quickly,
Sure.
and a lot of people are grinding, still trying to make their first 10K month. Right? That's
Right.
still a hot thing in this space, like it was 6, 7 years ago. I don't know, but I know there's still people struggling and have that set as a goal, right? So I knocked that one out pretty quick and replaced my income and had a business that was sustaining and profitable. Whatever revenue I was thinking in, I was making more than that back every month.
Hmm.
Um, and then in terms of the entrepreneurial freedom, again, I think that's totally a choice. But as I was just kind of telling Buzz as we got on for 3 minutes before we let everybody in, today's my first day back from vacation. I was able to just take my vacation that I wanted to. I didn't have to take any calls. I didn't bring my laptop. I didn't reply to one work thread. I didn't reply to emails. I just went on vacation and didn't worry about it. Now, I could still choose to do that, but I'm at the point where I can also choose not to, and I have enough foundations and infrastructure and systems to overcome that. So
Hmm.
I'm about to get into where you're going to go a little later with this, I think, and what a lot of us are ultimately striving for, the impact and legacy stage, kind of
Hmm.
personally. So
Yep.
just wanted to give people a little of my background or my take on this and how I've jumped through these stages or how I look at them from where I'm at to where I was 6, 7 years ago when I started online.
Beautiful. Love you. I love that you shared that. And the crazy thing is that a lot of people think that they have to get out of phase one in order to start working on phase two.
Mm,
It's because it's a choice. There's three reasons why people who have found, and I'll use myself as an example. Over the last 21 years, I have been founder free. I've had a founder free revenue engine three different times. And there are three reasons why somebody who has entrepreneurial freedom jumps back in to the mire. Okay. And I've experienced all three of them. The most recent, just last October. But the first one is that you've built a team and it completely collapses on you. You get a bad apple or you make a bad hire, whatever it is, all of a sudden you're sucked back in. I have a client who their operations manager who she totally relied on everything on this person, didn't just decided they didn't want to do it anymore, and then went on FMLA for 6 months. Can't fire her. So she got to pay her salary. So now she's stuck back in. Okay, that's number one. Number two is if you're looking for hyper growth. So you as a founder can't just sit there and stand on people's necks and sit and drink mai tais on the beach and expect for rapid growth inside your company if you're the sole founder. Pure and story. And if you have partners, even harder for that to happen. So that means you get sucked back in. Plus, things break a lot more when you're trying to move really fast. The third reason, and my most recent reason for coming back into my revenue engine, is a pivot. When you make a major pivot, which a lot of people are doing right now with AI, a lot of people did in the middle of the teens when we had mobile Geddon, and all of a sudden meta ads were really hard to do. SEO is always telling you to pivot because of all the new technologies, all the good stuff. Anytime you're doing that huge pivot, you're going to have to come back in and reestablish those ground rules. You're going to have to create those the processes, the handoffs, and reassess what numbers are the new numbers that you're going to want there. So it's not a like once you're there, it's all like clouds and cotton candy and anything like that. It's just something that we continuously are working in. I've sat on like seven boards of directors at the same time at one point. I donated over $100,000 worth of my company's services, meaning I paid my people for the services that I volunteered for the firm of the nonprofits that I was sitting on boards for, right? So it's great. To your point in the legacy piece of that, that's where we're at. And it's not that you have to be all one to get the next. There are levels of it, right? So it's not just like, oh, I'm entrepreneur freedom today and now I'm zero entrepreneur freedom. There are varying degrees of that, just like in your revenue. And impact sometimes
One more
takes
thing
time.
I wanted to touch on before you carried on that you brought up that I've actually experienced, and I think I look at it a little different than most. But you said something earlier that I think probably relates to a lot of people or a lot of people think about. Why are you still that active in the business?
Hmm.
Or why don't you want to be useless or needless in the business? Because it might hurt your ego a bit, right?
Yep.
Um, I remember talking to my father about this, which I talked to me and my dad are close, so I talked to him about a lot of my business stuff, and I talked to him about how, in many aspects of the business, I've been able to delegate, replace myself, step out of those roles, build those teams, and then hand them off. And he's like, "Doesn't that mean like?" The company doesn't need you, and isn't that a bad thing? I'm like, no, actually, Dad, I look at it the exact opposite. When the company doesn't need me, that's a better thing. And I'm like, you can't hit true growth while I'm needed in multiple aspects. Any one aspect, I would really say, but I've always kind of had my hands in multiple.
Yep.
But yeah, I found that interesting because I don't look at it that way.
Hmm.
Um, if
No,
my
you
company
shouldn't.
doesn't need me or somebody can replace what I can do,
Hmm.
that's a blessing to me. And in some areas, that's been hard to find in certain things. But
Oh yeah,
no,
always is.
I
That's
just
why
wanted to touch on that and give you my take. Go ahead, take it back,
I love
Buzz.
I love that. Just so you know, like a founder-free revenue engine is the most profitable, is the most valuable thing you can own. Don't own the job, own the company. Because once you own a company, there's a book called Build to Sell. If you're looking in this in why it's so important, and it's not necessarily you're trying to sell the company, but a company that is ready to sell has a lot of value in many instances that I mentioned a few of them. When you're looking for people to lead, they don't want a micromanager. And sometimes we're forced into micromanagement because we don't have processes, right? Another thing is that if you do go to sell, I get calls about once a quarter from people who are like, "Hey, you ready to sell your business?" Because we've been in business for so long, which means it's a very valuable business because it stood the test of time through recessions and COVIDs and all the other things that go along with it, right? Um, but I tell them I'm not ready to sell it. I don't want to sell it right now. It's not where I want it to sell. I have a number and I know what it's going to take to get that number. And so until then, I'm not even going to talk to them. But that doesn't mean I'm not every day trying to build towards that. And so just think about it that way, is that your value is in being able to step away and work on different aspects of your business or work over your business. So we don't get away from ourselves. Let's go ahead and identify your first founder free move so you can make the choice of entrepreneurial freedom. And to do this, we have to ask three questions. The first of which is where? Which stage drains you most? Which stage are you constantly getting pulled in? Now, for a lot of you, it's all of them, right? But think back to what you said earlier when I asked which principle was the weakest. Was it operating rules? Well, that shows up in activate or approve a lot. Was it handoffs? That predominantly shows up in the bridge between approve and anchor, where deals get closed, but onboarding is clunky. Or was it scorecard numbers, which could be anywhere, but it usually means you can't see the bottleneck clearly yet. So take a moment to pick one stage out of the six there, the stage where you're the rescue option the most or the sole option most often. That's your where. Go ahead and write that down. And if you're not quite sure, I have a founder free diagnostic you can take to pinpoint your biggest bottleneck in about 15 minutes. You can use it for free at free.buzzworthy.marketing/audience lab. Awesome. Give you guys a second to soak that one in. All right. So now, with your where in mind, we need to look for your who. Who on your team is going to own the stage that isn't you? Now, maybe you already have someone who's 60% of the way there. Maybe you need to hire a contractor or a fractional resource. Sometimes there are automations you can install, which are great, but you still need a human responsible for monitoring the process. So, whatever your situation, you need to pick a person. That's your who. If you want to read more about this concept of your who or super who's, there's a book by Dr. Benjamin Hardy that is called Who, Not How. Like puts you in the right mindset for that. Free.buzzworthy.marketing/audience lab. If it's giving you an error,
You just
I
paste in
will.
the chat.
It's
Oh,
in.
right.
I'll put it in the chat here after I'm done talking, And I'll
Sure.
also check with my team while we're doing questions and answers. All right. So for right now, take a moment to think about this, about your who, and write down who you think that is or who it could be. I mean, it's okay if you don't have anyone immediately. That probably means you need to look outside of your current team to fill this gap. Now, with your who in mind,
Following easy.
say again.
I got mine written down. I'm following simply.
Okay, cool. With your who in mind, you have to decide your what. What are the operating rules for this stage that you have your who responsible for? Now, you document this by simply writing down what gets done, when do they get it done? I'm sorry, when do they need to get it done? And what does done look like? And what's the next step? So you're going to write that down all on one page. That's your what. We don't have that. Unfortunately, we don't have the time to hash out your what out today. But go ahead and write down what gets done. When does it get done? And what does done look like? And if you haven't figured out what your bottleneck is, just continue to think about that bottleneck and where that's at, and make notes of what your what is. Okay. So this is the work that needs to be done before you take the next step. Handing it off to your who is your first founder free moment. So if you don't have the who on your team, schedule a time to find that owner, whomever it is. Give them the one-page operating rules. Then schedule a weekly 15-minute check-in for the duration of the time you have given them to get it implemented. Then let them run it. That's your second founder free move. And I'll be upfront with you. There'll be times when you're tempted to jump back in when something doesn't quite go right. Don't. Let them struggle a little while they learn. That's how you stop being the system. And once that stage or bridge is stable, you can go through this same exact exercise to find your next founder free move. Any questions on what? Okay. Give you guys a second to kind of finish up writing. Gave you a lot to write. Feeling good, Jaden? Jaden's over there typing away. There he goes. All right. So, as you can see, there's no reason to reinvent your entire system or adopt an entirely new operating model in order to achieve your goals. It's merely a matter of understanding where to focus your energy, who to delegate responsibility to, and guiding them to execute the actions that must be done in order to bridge the gap in your revenue engine. And none of this happens overnight. The process can take a year or two, depending on your current situation. Regardless, these are the steps you must take in order to realize true entrepreneurial freedom. Now, to help you through the process, I have written a book called Build a Founder-Free Revenue Engine and Escape the Founder-Led Trap. You can get a free copy at buzzworthy.marketing/audience lab. Hopefully that one's working. And remember that you can get the free diagnostic. We're going to double check, make sure everybody can get access to that wants it. And that's at free.buzzworthy.marketing/audience lab. And lastly, Raymond gave me permission to give the Audience Lab membership an opportunity to work with me and my team at a huge discount. Before I do that, Raymond said, okay, cool. Awesome. Here we go. So for the first time ever, I promise you, this is not a gimmick. I've never offered this before. I'm offering a founder-free revenue engine mastermind where my team and I will guide you through the process of going deep, doing a deep revenue engine diagnostic with a full SWOT analysis where we will clearly identify your current strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. We'll also do an extensive competitor and competitive landscape analysis so you have a clear picture of what you will be navigating, your revenue engine through, and how to best create a competitive moat around your business. We will then create and execute your first 90-day roadmap with a goal to fix the top 3 to 5 bottlenecks in your revenue engine. Now, when my company does this program one-to-one, it usually runs around $20,000 all in. But if we do this as a cohort, I can offer this for only $1,500 per agency. Now, this is not something I normally do, like I said, but I want to give back to the Audience Lab community, and this is the best way I can think of doing it. So we just need a minimum of 10 participants to make it happen. With that, I'm not going to say anything else. We're done. I'm going to go back over here to the other links and open it up to conversation while I check with my team to see why one of those links is not working. Back to you, Raymond. You can help.
Cool. Yeah, I was just replying. I'm getting some DMs through the people on the thing as well. So I was just replying to a couple people. But yeah, unfortunately, that's an awesome offer. I was just looking at how many people here, and we have like 8 or 10 here total, and a couple are my team members. For this offer, man, I really wish we had a little higher turnout today. I don't know if it's because my first day back from vacation, I didn't promote this enough. We're midweek in July. Normally we have a little better turnouts here, but that is an awesome offer. You had told me you were coming up with something for my audience. We never even really discussed it, and I love it. I think that's brilliant. It's a really good offer. So
what we'll do is
we should get
this.
more people here. We might want to, we might either want to offer it to people a little extended or limit it to 5 or something. I don't know, but
Yeah.
sorry we didn't have a
Yeah.
bigger turnout for that
No
offer here.
worries, no worries. So what I want to do is anybody that's in the room that is interested, go ahead. I'm giving my email in there. Just chat me with your company name, your name, and your contact information. We'll put you in the list. I'm gonna let Raymond go through the membership and find out who else could use this. And once we hit 10, we'll give it a day or two after that, and then I'll do a group chat with everybody to put it together. Unfortunately, with the economics of scale, I got to have it at that price point. It has to be at $1,500. If for some reason we can only get 5, I'll put out a number that makes it to where we're not making money at this price point. I promise you that. But I do have my team helping me.
I know what you normally charge, so yeah. Totally.
So with that said, if it's a little bit more, and the 5 people who do raise their hands want to do that, that's great. But right now, to make it as it's like a 92% discount as a cohort in the group learning to get 10, that would make that all those numbers work. So I will let Raymond, you just keep with me, and I will leave it open until you say, you know what, we don't have any other takers, and then we'll make some decisions from there. So
that's what I'll do. And I'm gonna drop a little bit of a post about the offer and with the replay a little later today.
Okay.
Once I have everything. And just let everybody else that's in the paid membership know, the people that weren't able to attend this or were on another workshop or just weren't able to watch. So yeah, we will do something like that. So let me go try this link and see what I see when I try it on my end really quick. And then I wanted to touch on one more thing, but let me just check this real quick in my Chrome browser.
And I am getting...
Yeah, I'm getting nothing either here.
Okay.
Can't reach this page.
No worries. I will find out what that is while we open this up to discussion.
Great. And where we let off, what you were just talking about, of course, I was thinking about, and I was kind of actively doing every exercise. Hopefully, the other participants had a pen and paper and were either taking notes or following along or identifying their stage or their phase, where they need to. I know Gina and a couple other people in the chat kind of realized, oh, I'm at this phase, or this is definitely where I'm stuck, or I'm still in every aspect. But to your last exercise there, and Jaden's on the call, that's why I message him back and forth. Jaden's been a longtime team member and does quite a few different things. He's worn, I don't know, damn near every hat you can wear on our team, similar to me in pretty much every department. Jaden more so, I would say, in terms of customer support and actual like data and audience building creation and that stuff. But it's funny because Jaden was my answer to my who, and he's already kind of been appointed in that role. And on, your wheel, I know it has the six different, spots and in total of nine bridges there. But on the outer three layers, you asked us to really assess where we're drawn in more. Surprisingly for me personally, and I just want to share this with everybody else watching, including Jaden, my team member on the call, but I find myself more in that green client success nowadays with what I do in the company, believe it or not. I'm pretty much removed from sales, which is what I built and what I grew in this company for the first 5 years of Audience Lab being in existence. I am very minute in sales. I was attached and working closely with our marketing for the first 3 years as a company, very close, and then just kind of consulting and giving insight. I'm almost totally out of the marketing, almost totally out of the sales. And really, Jaden is a wizard already in the client success department. So, do I really have to be there? Probably not. But again, by choice, by leading. I also like something else you said. A founder that's just trying to like be on his beat sipping cocktails well as his business grows and scales at an astronomical profitable rate. It's highly unlikely, number one. Number two, I don't think it's good to lead by example. I think every team member knows that I have probably or am willing to do their role in the company. Do I still do one-on-one onboarding calls with clients? Can I still go close a deal? Do I still give sales guys help on and audit their calls and say, hey man, I would have done this different? Do I still give marketing feedback on the slogan, the funnel, the ad creative, right? So
Oh
like
yeah.
those are all just little inputs, but it was interesting to kind of do the exercise. I kind of know all this, but you break it down very simple into, hey, just identify one of these in this graph, one of these, and that's your tipping point right now. Could there be other things that are relevant to you in this? Yeah, but let's start with number one priority, fix that gap, then assess what's number two priority, which by default then becomes number one priority because we already solved the first one, right?
Well,
But it's funny because
so
I,
that's the
I
tricky
filled out
part,
in the three thing. I filled
right?
out just to close out real quick for your three questions there. Client success is where I'm kind of most in the business. My who is Jaden. We just had this conversation and promoted him to a different role within the last few months in the company. And the what, if anything, are the rules when you're kind of building out a new department, a new division. It's not something you already were very active in or set a foundation. You don't really have those ground rules of what's expected or what's the timeline or
Mm-hmm.
what are the defined tasks daily, etc.
Mm-hmm.
So Jaden, really cool, has been able to kind of build those out on the fly and told me where his time should be best spent and what to expect because that was not totally my department. We actually just realized, I'll be very honest with you, Buzz, really quick too, we just realized really, really, I can't say just realized, but we just finally acted on the fact that client success and customer support are two different things.
Mm-hmm.
So for our first few years in business, we kind of lumped that into one thing and thought it was all
Mm-hmm.
the same thing. I can't say thought, we treated it as all the same thing. Let me correct. We treated it as
Mm-hmm.
all the same thing. When I think internally we knew it was two separate things with two separate objectives that should probably have two separate leaders or two
Mm-hmm.
separate minds running those. You know what I mean? So
Yep.
we just finally
Oh,
isolated and fixed that and corrected and said, hey, we need our own client success department. Me and myself, my business partners got together internally and said, who is the guy from our whole ecosystem? Do we need to go get him? Do we already have them? And when we all came up unanimously, that is Jaden, cool, let's go talk to him and make sure he's excited about this role and it fits his skill set, his energy, his ambition. And it did, right? So
mm-hmm.
anyway, just taking people behind the scenes through my thought process of this exercise, how it's relevant to me today, and how I've looked at this in recent transitions or months.
I love that. And the one of the things that you said is like, the second one will automatically become the first one. And I will caution you that that is not always true. When we fix one thing, it will affect your engine differently. It's just like when you are changing the tires on your car. If you balance one tire, it doesn't necessarily mean on the front, say the front driver's side, that doesn't necessarily mean the next one that is going to make it stop wobbling is the other side of the front end axle. Because you're changing the balance of the entire vehicle when you change something in the engine. It's all circular, which means everything's connected. So you might actually have a that you might have something that will surface another issue that is bigger, creates bigger friction than the thing you think is the next one. So it might still end up being number two because something else is working so well. There's a hidden friction that you didn't even know about or recognize until you fixed the biggest friction. So just be careful to where it's like when you're planning things, when we work with clients, we always work in 90-day sprints. 90 days for agencies is long enough to see one or two deals go through your revenue engine. It gives a quarter of working with clients in the client success space, and it gives marketing usually at least one cycle of the marketing space. So everybody gets a chance to see how things are getting affected. It doesn't mean that you're going to see the whole life cycle go in 90 days because some of us have clients that are around for a couple years at a time, right? So we have to see the averages as far as that goes. But believe me, as you grow, every business is a little bit different because your dynamics are different. Like you have Jamin. I have a Devin and I have a Tracy. I have a couple super who's, right? And it's taken me a long time to get them. Like literally, I had at one point when we had the creative agency, we had 24 employees there, 13,000 square foot facility. And the crazy thing is my number two, my office manager, my business manager, I didn't know it. She was siphoning tens of thousands of dollars into her own bank account under my nose. So not that Jamin's going to do that, but when you never know people are great until they're not, right? And you never know how people are going to react when they become under pressure or they get complacent or there's other things in the world that you have no control over, but impresses upon them. So we're in the people business, so we just got to be aware of that.
Yeah, no, and I would agree with what you just said. Maybe maybe you, Mike, or everybody, you, Buzz, or everybody misunderstood. I didn't exactly mean what I meant was now that you fixed priority number one, whatever you assess that number two now becomes number one. But you're right, you go back and reassess.
You got to do another engine diagnostic. Yep.
I just mean because you've solved that first problem, whatever the next pressing one is becomes number one because we've solved one.
Right. And as you go through different echelons of your business, so if there are a few of you here that are still under the $1 million mark, most of your problems are going to be in the lead generation space and selling the stuff. Just is because you're still kind of getting your feet under you and you just haven't systemized that process yet. But as you get in past that $1 million phase, your bandwidth is going to start getting shrinking, and you being the best salesman of your company is going to become a big strain. And then as you get bigger and there's more clients than you can, we had 300 clients a year that we would serve. And we're like a creative agency. So we're doing like graphic design, video production, all these other things, right? So there were people walking through my building that I had never met, never talked to. I had employees that I had never met, never talked to. Like that's not a good thing necessarily, but when we had interns, it was like I didn't have time to talk to the interns, right? So you're going to have different problems as you grow. And sometimes you'll go back to the same stage for a different reason. So just keep that in mind. I did put in a link there, the buzzworthy.strategies or buzzworthystrategies.com/buzz. So it's free.buzzworthystrategies.com/buzz. That right there is like my personal way to get to it. So when I'm out and about, that's what I put out there. So I know that works. I went to it. It checks out. And then Christopher asked, how about a white label or affiliate offer? Can you unmute and are you saying a white label for us to do it for your clients? Or
that's an interesting thought. What would you suggest? Or what
this is what I do for a living. I go into businesses and I create founder-free revenue engines. So if you have a client that's over $1 million in revenue, and we prefer people in the B2B, but at least in the services space, so they're people serving people. Heck yeah, I'm going to help you do that because the better they are at running their business, the more you get to help them grow.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, win-win wins, man. That's always look for the 3 wins. We're the last win.
Yeah, no, we'll make something work. I got your number here. So, guys, I got a question for you real quick, if I can chime in. I'm going to a meeting at 4:00. It's a guy who does. It's actually somebody I talked to a long time ago. And he contacted me today and said he wants to talk because he's not getting the results he wants. I'm just thinking on just saying, look, for the first 90 days, I'm going to charge you $100 a day up front, $9,000 plus whatever my expenses are. Then we got a then we'll deal with it in 91 days. What we should do after that. That's intent. That'll be the intent data. That'll be the identity pixel included.
So
Plus,
we used to do exactly that, and is a great model to get started with because it gives you time to react. Over the last
yeah.
few years, we've been able to get that 3-month process down to 3 weeks. We charge $5K for it, and we only
Oh,
have
okay.
2 meetings with the client. But I have never had a client ever go through that 3-week process going, "Oh, that wasn't worth it." So if I would continue to work your 90-day, and then as you get good at the process and start automating
Right.
some of that stuff, it's your research that takes the most time, believe it or not. And with AI,
Yeah.
you can really shrink that down. So spending a weekend
Yeah.
just like really understanding the questions that you need to ask the client up front so that you can do the proper research so that when you're having that $100 day for 90 days, like every
Yeah.
day you're building on that and then building that out.
Yeah.
And that's something that we're eventually going to be teaching as a framework. So and literally license out my framework so that you can use it as your own. And so that's why I asked if you were talking about the white
And
label.
that's where I was kind of, because I just
Yeah.
want to work as a consultant. I just want to turn
Yeah.
good people on to good people.
Right. And so
That
right
makes
now
sense.
we are doing the affiliate process where we just pay you out for bringing us in
Okay,
for
that's
that.
fine.
And then we collaborate with our affiliates as well. We call them strategic referral partners. Affiliate, same thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but we collaborate with them too. So like I have today, I was talking with somebody who builds high level funnels or high level installations, and she's not a strategist. So she's like, so she'll get asked to build out a CRM, but they'd have no strategy or any process in the revenue engine. And she's like, well, what am I going to build? So she's bringing
Yeah.
us in the front end to say, hey, here's your strategy. And then we plug her in on the 90-day roadmap and saying, okay, here, Rain, her name's Rain. Rain's going to build this out once we have this in place for you. So we just
Yeah.
build
Okay.
whoever brought us in, we just build them into the roadmap of like, that's your who, because I got to have who's. Like I'm not the guy who's building out the website or any of that stuff. Do we have people
Yep.
in a pinch on my staff? Of course. I used to run a creative agency. We have them just in case, but that's not where we are being paid the most money. Our bread and butter is helping them have a strategy, create a plan, and then hand that plan to the super who's, and then we're just an advisor or fractional leader to make sure everybody's doing what they need to
Yep.
do, when they need to
Yep.
do it, where they need to do it, dot, dot, dot.
Yeah. So I'll get back to you probably the
Real
next
quick,
couple of days.
hit on real quick
So,
for you, Chris, real quick. The only other thing I would add to that, and it's great points and great insight, and yeah, hit up Buzz if you want to refer somebody over or think one of your clients can benefit from what he does, and he'll take care of you. I'm sure of it. But
Oh, yeah.
the other thing I would say, Chris, you said this guy reached back out to you after you contact them maybe months ago, and they're not getting
Yeah.
results, and now they're coming back. The one thing I would say if you're going to another meeting with them is make sure you're asking the right discovery questions and just assess and make sure you know where big problem or gap number one is in their business, and then show them a quick
Yep.
path to solving that and how you can do that for them. As
Mhm.
long
I
as you
got
do
12
that very
questions
well,
for
I
him.
think.
Yeah.
Yeah, great.
I
I
came up
was
with
going to
12
say, as long as you
questions
do
for him.
that very
So
well, you're going to have no problem when you get to your pitch and your price. If you've really identified the problem, they agree it's a problem. You show them a solution, and then they say, "Hell, Chris, if I had this in my business, I'm sure it would solve this problem." Then, when you get to price, all the obstacles start to drop. Right.
okay.
Other thing,
Yeah.
guys, we have another workshop starting in 1 minute. I'm sure Jaden's going to be disappearing off this screen
Yeah, I gotta
momentarily
run.
because he runs that one. But the daily data strategy workshop is happening. Jaden is hopping over to monitor and run that. So anybody wants you bounce off here, just so you know, the data workshop, I think there was a post yesterday saying it was going to be missed today or postponed. It is going on, and it starts in 1 minute.
Awesome. So
All right, guys.
with the
Gotta run,
last
Buzz.
minute,
We'll be in touch.
it sounds great, Christopher. Last minute, I want to give you guys one last point. When you're doing your discoveries and you're figuring out what their gaps are, be very honest with yourself of why your business exists. Anybody asking anything for help, anything outside of the purpose of your business should be referred out to for 2 reasons. One, your profitability counts on it. Believe me, I went through it. I lived on 3% profits because I could never say no. Because every time you say yes to one thing, you say no to something else. And then number 2, your reputation. If you're always learning how to get things done, you'll never become an expert at it, nor will your team. So that's my last 2 cents on that. Enjoy the other workshop.
I would agree. And I would say people pay up for expertise and people that solve the one or two problems they're struggling with, not a
Mhm.
generalist in 8 different things, right?
Exactly.
You can get a
Exactly.
generalist price or you can get an expert price. I always love
Exactly.
the analogy of what are you going to pay more for, a brain surgeon or or a chiropractor for an hourly session? I think you
Yeah.
and I both know the answer. I could go find 15 chiropractors in my area. I could probably only find a couple brain surgeons, and I guarantee you they ain't doing it at my chiropractor hourly rate.
No, they're not. And as far as the deck, I'll make sure that you get a copy of it, Raymond, so that you can get it to
Perfect.
Andrew and the rest of the people. I'll
So,
get you a
guys,
PDF.
what I'll do for anybody still on here is I'll have a post later that'll have the link to the replay. Within that replay link, I'm going to post links to everything that Buzz provided here today. So, once you see my replay post, I'm going to probably do it in a YouTube setting. Click on that video in description and any links that he provided, the pitch deck, the audience lab link, the link to his booking calendar. I'll have all those linked down in the description.
Beautiful.
All right, guys, Buzz, appreciate your time, the value you brought. I got a couple private messages from people that for some reason were shy, didn't speak up. One of them, I won't read the name since it was private. This guy's good as watching your presentation today. So
Thanks.
some of the people just wanted to DM me and tell me that you were really good. I enjoyed the presentation.
Beautiful.
I engaged and participated and picked up some value from it. And
Good.
as I always tell all the viewers, I hope there's something you could pinpoint or pick up from this that you can go implement or tweak or change right away after you walk away from this call. So thanks again, Buzz. Any last closing words?
Oh man, I think we've overloaded everyone. I'll make sure that you get my my scheduling link. That's the only thing we don't have in there.
Make sure I get that along with the pitch deck. Yeah, just send me the
Yep.
link to everything that you provided here today and the recap,
Perfect.
and I'll get it out to all my peeps.
All
All
right.
right,
Cheers.
guys. We'll catch you soon and keep your eyes peeled for next month's expert guest. I haven't made the announcement yet, but I got a good one lined up. So
All righty.
see you guys. Thanks again, Buzz.
Cheers.